Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Diamonds in the Rough podcast. I'm joined by Nate again and a new guest, Michael.
How's everyone doing?
The day one homies from my college. Mike unfortunately is a Seahawks fan, so he doesn't really vibe with us that much. But this should be a good one.
I have Chargers gear on.
He does have a Charger. Is it Herbert?
Denial. Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you a pass this year. It's probably gonna be rough for you.
Yes.
But you're in my thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. Drew Lock. Let's go, Drew Lock. I'm still a Seahawks fan. I am still a Seahawks fan. Disregard the shirt.
Yeah, obviously. But we can talk about football as it pertains to this topic. This is kind of a general topic that I feel like has started to become popular as one, sports gets super popular and the content is out there, and two, JJ Redick kind of sparked this argument on First Take. Was it Bob Cousy or Jerry West he said this about?
I think Cousy, he was he started off with Jerry West and then he kind of brought Bob Cousy into it too. I think
he basically kind of started a debate. He was talking to an older guy who had probably seen these players, and when they're talking about greatness between I don't even remember the player, but I just remember the headline sort of. It's talking about greatness between.
He started with Jerry West, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know the player he was talking about currently.
Oh, yeah.
Just like a current great player, and a former great player. And they were debating about it, and I think he said they were playing against farmers, like it's not the same and all that. Totally like disrespecting those players, in my opinion. But so I just want to bring up the discussion of like, should we be comparing players from different eras? If we should, what's the timetable? Are there certain stipulations, stuff like that? Pretty broad thing, but I think it's a good thing to talk about, especially when sports are kind of slow. We're only in baseball. Football is going to start up, but baseball's not even in the playoffs yet. So as far as storylines, kind of tough. But I'll give it to the new guy, Mike. What are your thoughts?
I think you can, but I think so I'm just going to use basketball as an example. So I think it depends on like what players you're comparing. Okay. Because I think with Bill Russell, I do think that comparing him to say LeBron or MJ is a little more challenging because yes, the competition was a little less, but I still think Bill Russell deserves all the respect he has, obviously, with no one's done what he's done. And so obviously I would still totally respect Bill Russell. But I think when it comes to the MJ era and the LeBron era, I think that you can definitely compare with those two eras. And the differences is in MJ's era, it's more physical. You're a lot more fouls, a lot less 3-point shooting. And now in this era, it's more 3-point shooting. And LeBron and MJ both have identical stats. MJ averaged 30 points per game, and LeBron currently has 27. So that you can definitely compare the two there and be like, okay. But I still think obviously MJ is the GOAT with 6 rings and LeBron has 4. But I can see how you can compare both. So that's what my point would be.
Okay, Nate, I'll let you go.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. I think it's definitely fair to compare different eras because we're all sports fans. Like we're here talking sports. That's just a fun thing to do, and it's always fun to have those hypotheticals like, oh, could Wilt Chamberlain play in today's era? Could LeBron play in the 1970s, whatever? It's just fun to have those debates, but I think it's important to keep the context of when they played in mind too, because if you take LeBron James and put him in pretty much any era before this, I think he would just dominate because he's just a better athlete than anyone we've ever seen on a basketball court before. Skill-wise, I still think MJ is the GOAT. I always will. But I think it's how evolution works. It's how people evolve and people just get more athletic as time goes on. There's new training, there's new weight training that people can do. So I think that's fair. But I think when you're comparing these different eras, it's like people say, "Oh, Bill Russell was playing against plumbers and farmers, whatever you want to say." But is that his fault? Like he played against who he had to play with. LeBron's playing against who he has to play against. So I think comparing people's like legacies and who they were at the time that they played, I think that's very fair. But like I said, if you're trying to talk just athletics skill wise, you're not like if you take David Ortiz and put him against Three Finger Boyd back in whatever 1920s when he played, he's taking him 600 feet out of this every stadium that he'll play again that they're playing in. So I just think it's tough to compare their athletic abilities, but I think definitely in the context of when they played, that's a fair way to do it.
Okay. First off, rest in peace to Bill Russell. We mentioned him.
Absolutely.
I don't think
Yes.
we've
Rip.
acknowledged it.
Rest in peace. Legend.
But I'm on my own in this. I don't think it's fair to compare people from other eras. And it's definitely a new opinion I've kind of awoken to, because obviously I have a whole series where I redo the Basketball Hall of Fame and basically honestly like crap on some guys who are in the Hall of Fame, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it was fun to do. But I think you guys mentioned a lot of stuff relative to it. I know Nate mentioned like as far as like weightlifting and stuff like that, even that's different, right? Like in The Last Dance, Michael Jordan to bulk up you see him doing a bunch of bench press stuff, and like no basketball player really does bench press. It's not the best movement for you as far as basketball goes, right? I mean, even like the fitness industry is crazy now. Like the amount they know now compared to when Jordan played is absurd. And I just think there's so many things that are different that you can't compare, that you can't, like, even in terms of like Jordan had to deal with hand checking and LeBron doesn't. It's like, we don't know how LeBron's going to fare with that. LeBron's also a bigger guy than Jordan, so maybe he likes a hand checking error more, right? Like we don't know that. And even as far as like, if someone was like, oh, you can judge it on impact, for instance, I think to an extent, but at the same time, if we're doing impact, Bill Russell has the biggest impact on the game. He started it. He won 11 rings. I mean, every guy before him acknowledges how great he was, because they know if he didn't do what he did, we're not here. The NBA isn't a product if he isn't as good as he is, right? And I know even in The Last Dance, Kobe mentioned it. He said, I am nothing without Michael Jordan, right? Like, I think it is just evolution. And, without the guys before, the guys currently can't do what they do, right? So I just think it's unfair, because it's like, you even see tapes of Bob Cousy, he's only dribbling with his right hand. He was still the best point guard in that era, right? You can't tell me if you put him in now, he's not going to be similar to a Steve Nash, right? I think he'd have better training and everything like that. And, I don't think there's a reason he couldn't be super successful in the league now. I just like to look at it as, if you were great in an era, you can be great in any era. You can be better or worse depending on the era, because the game's different, right? Tim Duncan, I don't think would be as good as he was when he played if he played now. But it's at the same time, could Tim Duncan not develop a three-pointer? Why would he not be a version of like Porzingis or something, right? A better version of that, like just in theory. But
yeah, the game's changed so much that it's like, yeah, like you said, like the guys that even like the dominant centers of like the 90s and stuff, who knows if they could have played today, because like you said, it's all three-pointers. And yeah, they probably would have been able to develop 3-point shots, but who knows? Like that's why it's all hypotheticals. It's tough to always you'll never get an answer, because that's why it's hypotheticals.
When Dwight Howard got drafted, he was considered to be too small at center.
Yeah,
he is now considered a power forward to some, right? Like,
that's how times change.
The game is just so different, right? I think that's why the biggest testament to me is like, if you played in the same era and you can be better than those guys, that's what matters to me, right? That's why I think I said it to you guys when Brady beat Mahomes. I'm like, I don't ever want to hear anyone say Mahomes has the potential to be better than Brady. Brady beat him in a Super Bowl. It's done.
Yeah.
That's it. Right?
Gotta win
Unless he
10.
wins, yeah, unless he gets like 8.
Even then, I don't think I can say it. Like, it's because there's so many things that would have to come. Like,
Yeah.
it's just in a head-to-head matchup. If you lose to the guy, I feel like that is the epitome of I am worse than him. Right?
It'd be
Like,
like,
You could make
Yeah.
a case though because of age though, but I do agree with you.
yeah,
I do
Brady was
agree.
42, 43,
Oh yeah, that
42.
is true.
Like, Brady should have been retired. He should be with the
Yeah,
kids
that
at
is a
that
good
point. He
point.
shouldn't even be on the football
when
field. But
when you see something like that, it's like that's kind of similar. Imagine if LeBron and Jordan ever played in the finals. I mean, whoever won there, like the MJ or LeBron stands would have had that over their head for life, you know.
yeah,
So it's like,
and it's also at the same time, right? Like, I think I've done a ton of like Michael Jordan research and watching old tape and stuff like that. I still don't know as much of a guy who lived it, right? Like, I can only watch so much. You know, I can watch full games, but I can't watch like full seasons per se, right? Um, you know, and it's just these guys trashing on like Kuzi or Russell or Chamberlain. It's like you weren't alive when they were playing. Right. So how much can you really say? The only things like when it comes to Russell, it's like the only things I can look at to judge his greatness are his titles and his winning percentage and the comparisons when he played Wilt, like because he completely outplayed Wilt, who's another no doubt great. If anyone want to trash it on Wilt, I mean, look at his averages. I don't care who you're playing against. Look at his averages. I couldn't average that against 5-year-olds. Like it's absurd what he was doing, right? So
it's like, yeah, some of these guys might not have been, like I was saying, you gotta take all the context into it, because no matter who you're playing against, averaging 50 points in a season is ridiculous. Like,
yeah, I mean, he's the only guy who's done it.
exactly. If more people could do it, they'd be doing it right now. And like people see like 36 points per game from Harden like a couple years ago, and it's like, oh my God, that's insane.
And that got
But
taken for granted. Like it was crazy.
yeah,
I felt like when he won that MVP, there were people who were kind of mad. I was like, what are we doing? Like, I understand Harden's not like the most lovable guy and all, but like just be amazed and love what's going on right now. Anytime
right,
he
yeah,
takes a step back, you know it's in. That's absurd.
he's dropping 60-point triple doubles on the nightly, and people are like, oh, I hate
Guys
this.
are guarding
Come
him
on.
with their arms behind their back.
Yeah,
But,
insane.
What I will say is I don't think JJ Redick should be making these comments when he was never a part of a big three
that is a good point.
or he was
Yeah.
never a superstar. I get it. He's a new hire for ESPN, so he wants to try to make as much waves as possible for like
I do
the
think he's
social
been good,
media.
I will say.
He has been good, but I don't know why he thinks he can call out the NBA logo, Jerry West era, and then
That's what it
I mean,
was.
Jerry West
That
is
was
going
crazy.
to Jerry West is of course going to tell him off and make a mockery of him because like JJ Redick is known for, you know, playing at Duke and being a good 3-point shooter in the NBA. He's not known for being a champion or putting 30 points per game up or having any like rings. So, you know, you have to
Yeah.
question him for that.
It's especially crazy in the NBA because it seems like John, you're kind of saying, everyone always respects like the guys that came before him. Like,
Yeah, I
no
guess I should
matter,
put an asterisk except JJ
yeah,
Redick.
they tried to. You know, it's just after Bill Russell tragically, again, rest in peace, passed away. It was like every single NBA person, from whether it was Larry Bird, Magic, you know, Dr. J, and even the guys now, it's like everyone had something great to say about him, because that just seems like the NBA is like that. You know, it's a family, and now you got JJ Redick coming after the logo. It's like, come on now, JJ,
Also,
what are you doing?
you just mentioned this guy, but screw people who don't like think Larry Bird was that good. Like I've heard people who are like, he wouldn't be that good today. And that's
ridiculous.
crazy to me. Like, there's nothing I can prove, obviously, right? But to me, Larry Bird would be like a more mobile version of Jokic. Like, I think he would be so amazing. And
Yeah,
I think if Larry Bird was in the game today, you're talking about him like as a better Luka, as a better Jokic, like talking about best player in the league, all this stuff. Like he was nasty, and he doesn't. I said it to my brother and I were talking of the most underrated like basketball player of all time. Who's good, He said David Robinson, which I agreed with. I think that's the most underrated player. But I was arguing it's tough because we live in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Or around Massachusetts.
New England.
Yeah, New England. So like obviously we all appreciate Larry Bird and get it, but there's a lot of people out there who are just like, that's some white boy who can shoot. Like
yeah, it's just the disrespect to him. If you watch, Larry Bird might have one of the best highlight tapes. To just go on YouTube, go watch his highlights. He's got some of the most like faking dudes out of their shoes.
That's the best trash talker of all time.
Yeah, best trash talker, shooting with his left hand all game.
That's the guy I think out of everyone I most would want to be in this era because of multiple reasons. One, the mic'd up clips of him would be incredible. And like all the content we get with him, like I wonder how he deal with the social media era if he's like this big star, right?
I feel like he'd be just telling people to mess off.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious though. Like he truly
like
wouldn't care.
He just wouldn't have any of it,
Like I feel like he'd have some Russell Westbrook interview clips in there, like some memes, right? Obviously his career was cut short because of a foot injury. I'd like to see what the science today could have done to preserve his career and extend it, right? Because his career got cut way too short.
Yeah.
And also like in an era where like boxing out seems to be rare, and just good basketball and passes, he'd be great with that. And then imagine like you tell Larry Bird because he was in an era where 3-pointers were like, why are you shooting those almost?
Right.
In this era, like, all right, you're going to need to improve your 3-point shot. Like he'd shoot like 45% or something stupid. Because I think he shot around 39, 38 in that era, which was insane. But it wasn't the main part of his game because that's just not how they played the game back then.
Yeah, I think the craziest part to compare like the 3-point shooting in those areas, it's like, and we all love Marcus Smart, but he's not the greatest 3-point shooter ever. He has more 3-pointers than Larry Bird.
Exactly.
Like
that's very nice of you to say, not the greatest 3-point shooter ever. That's a great criticism.
Quick tangent. That Heat game.
Every Celtic fan just winced.
That Heat game 6 where it was just like Smart needs to hit 1 3 and the game's over.
Yeah.
And he missed like 3. Was it Heat? I don't remember which game.
Was that the one in the bubble?
No, that was game 6 of the finals in back in May or June. Or not finals, it was Eastern Conference Finals, sorry.
Might have been against the Bucks, honestly.
No, it was against the Heat.
It was. Okay.
They were up 11 and Jimmy Butler went crazy. And we just kept shooting threes.
That's right.
We just won. Was that game 7? Oh, that was game 7
Game 6, I think, because we lost that game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, game 6.
I think that's what it was. I don't remember that game too much. It was a rough night. But
to your point, though,
go ahead.
To your point, though, I will say, something that's we're lacking is the just like their era was very competitive. Like a lot of rivalries formed, right? We don't really have that as much now. A lot of the players want to be friends with each other, which kind of diminishes the intensity, right?
I will say it's starting to take a turn, which I like.
It is starting to take a turn, but we don't have like that huge rivalry. You know what I mean? Like, if the Celtics and Lakers can, maybe play in their finals in one of these upcoming years, maybe then that will kind of help with it. But the Lakers are terrible.
Yeah, I would say Celtics Warriors are starting to brew, but then I saw Tatum at Draymond's wedding, so who knows? I don't think a rivalry.
The funny thing to me is the NBA is doing. I don't know if you heard January 24th to 28th. They're doing a rivalry week.
I did see that.
Some of the games that are considered rivalry games, I couldn't believe. Yeah. Bulls Hornets. Is it because the brothers are on the team? Like, what is
Gotta
this?
Be.
My brother had to explain to me the Bulls and Hornets used to be a major rivalry. Like, Which,
Sure.
like, I also just think everyone in the 90s hated each other. If you were a good team, everyone hated you. So, like, I don't know. But it's like that is the furthest thing I think from a rivalry. Like, rivalries are being created through Twitter.
Yeah,
John
like,
Morant did everything he could to make the Grizzlies and Warriors a rivalry, which, like, I really don't think it is. Suns Mavericks is there, I would say. But in general, like, there isn't a lot, right? I think rivalries are more the fans don't like the team than.
I think Celtics, Sixers.
But as
Clippers,
Embiid said,
I
it's
think
not a rivalry. We keep losing to them.
yeah, but the
Uh,
fans hate each other. You know what I mean? Like we hate them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they
well,
hate us.
we hate Philadelphia. Philadelphia hates Boston.
Right. So I still think there's a rivalry there. And then, I think Clippers and LA, they're starting to get a little dicey out there.
I don't know. There's just not too many. Like, you would think Celtics Nets would be like very obviously a rivalry. Like, Durant chose to go to the Warriors instead of Celtics, and Kyrie did everything he did. But Celtics players still love Kyrie.
Yeah,
And, like, Tatum is best buds with KD. Not best buds, but he loves KD. It's like they're just, these players just love each other off the court as well, which I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. Like, peace, love, and positivity, right? But, like, back then, no, there was no, like, let's work out together, bud.
Well, also
Yeah.
back then there was a lot more loyalty. There wasn't a lot of players
Mhm.
leaving their teams as much as there is now. So I feel like a
Yeah.
lot of these players don't want to cut that bridge off because say if Jaylen Brown wants to, eventually leave and go be his own man and on another team, being friends with Kyrie could be a benefit for him because then, okay, he can team up with Kyrie somewhere. So I think that free agency mindset is probably diminishing a lot of the
That's a very good
rivalry,
point.
probably.
They're trying with
DeJounte
the
Murray is now going and at it with the rookie in Orlando.
they apparently made
would-
up very quickly.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
did they?
made up.
Apparently
now.
it's all good. But that was a good point with the free agency stuff, because
Yeah.
that's taken a turn. And get prepared in 2 years for a free agency where you're going to be seeing numbers that you have never seen before for
Oh, yeah.
guys. Jaylen Brown is going to be eligible for like a $70 million a year deal.
That's
I
just
love
crazy.
Jaylen Brown, but that is tough to have to look in the mirror and go, I'm going to pay Jaylen Brown $70 million a year. And
Well, I
Tatum,
almost-
if he makes all NBA, is 5-year 296. That's what you have to pay him.
That Devin Booker deal, I fell off my chair when I was reading that. I was like,
And
what?
that's a good deal
Yeah.
now.
It's the market. It's the market.
It's the market then, and then in a year or two, that's a deal. Like, think about that. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I just find it interesting that people complain about these deals.
Yeah, like when Steph Curry got, I mean, it was a couple deals ago that he got, and it was like 30 mil, and everyone was going, I mean, he deserved it at the time, but everyone was going crazy. And then 2 years later, he's like, everyone agrees he's like the most underpaid player in the league. It's like, it just goes up so quickly, especially recently. It's insane.
We're gonna have the same thing that happened. I don't remember the year, but it was the year like Chandler Parsons was 26 a year. Timothy Mozgov was 4 years, 64. Like all those, the same exact thing's gonna happen in 2 years because the revenue's just going up. It's not gonna be fun. But you mentioned Jaylen Brown, and I just gotta say that guy is so loyal. I don't understand. The fact he like is cool to stay with the Celtics, amazing. I don't think there's a girl more loyal than Jaylen Brown is to the Celtics. Like, I don't get it. The Celtics
see if
go
he's loyal.
behind his back and are like, throw him in trade stuff. And then he's
Yeah,
like, I want to stay here long term.
We'll see if he's loyal in 2 years.
I would not blame him.
I mean, if he's gonna get that $70 million contract,
Yeah, you can't move him.
What I
That
will say
brings
about
loyalty.
the Jaylen Brown saga is I would not be getting my feelings hurt too bad if I was him. You're being put in trade rumors with Kawhi Leonard a few years ago. Kevin Durant. It's not like he's being in rumors for bad players. He's being put in rumors for top 5 players. You know what I mean?
did say that, but I think this is a little different because he is a major part of why they made the finals. And
That
he
is
was
true.
the only guy who showed up in the finals.
That is true.
You know, like,
Couldn't
So I
dribble too
think,
well, but I mean, yeah.
well, he still
Or
needs to
catch the
learn
ball.
how to dribble. Not denying that. That would be a
Yeah.
nice skill. But yeah, I mean, game 6, no one's doing anything. He scores 30. Like he was trying
Yeah.
till the end. Like I have to respect it. And
Yeah, absolutely.
not people like to compare Tatum Brown. Who's actually better? I know Boston was like Brown's better than Tatum, and they say that every time Brown is a better game than Tatum, right? But it was definitely, and I know Tatum had his injury, and I also wasn't too mad because I was like, they were exhausted. They played 40
Yeah.
games in the regular season of we have to win. And then they played, 2 game 7s in a sweep. And then you get to the finals and, Warriors just cruised essentially. So I don't blame them, but it was interesting that like Brown seemed to show up for every like big game except for maybe like 2 in the playoffs.
Yeah, and he's been doing it since. I mean, I think he dropped like a 30-point game in the playoffs against the Bucks that series, like his second year or something. He's been doing that.
He's a big game
He
player.
shows up. Yeah, he is. He shows up when he needs to, and I think that's why everyone in Boston, including Brad and all the decision makers, love him so much, and that's why he's getting compared to these guys like Kevin Durant. And like Mike said, I think he should. Obviously, you don't want to be shopped around all the time, but it's also who knows if that was really an actual offer that the Celtics were looking for, because I mean they tried to get Tatum and Brown off of them, so it's like who knows how real those trade talks were. And I mean it seems like they died off pretty quickly, so I understand why he's still what.
I just think you have an obligation as an organization that if they're like not true or anything like that, to come out and say like, we are not trading Jaylen Brown.
Right.
He's an integral part of, because if you do that, shut down, we're good. But you not doing that is kind of like, you're still open to it, and
Yeah.
I just think you get to a certain status because Brown is top 25 easy. I don't think that's an argument. Maybe to some it is, but he's top 25 easy. Big part of why the team made the finals. I think at that point, and he's 26. I think at that point, you should be untouchable.
I would agree
Yeah.
with everything you're saying. The problem is he did sign with Kanye West. So that adds a layer of doubt because Kanye West could be like, hey, you got to go be your own man somewhere else and be a leader on another team. So, and then you're looking at Kevin Durant's contract, you have 4 years of, and also the new money isn't, you mentioned Jaylen Brown would maybe get 70 million. Kevin Durant's money won't be like that because he signed before the market went up. So I do see why they were in negotiations, and I still believe that they were in negotiations, and I still believe they would do the deal if the Nets would trade him. But now that the Nets won't trade him, obviously I think it's off.
Well, yeah,
But
I think they would have done Brown, White, and maybe a couple picks, but they wanted Smart. I think they wanted Williams too. Like you're not giving up your entire core that
Well,
just
they
took you to
wanted
the
Brown and
finals.
Tatum. That was another one.
that's
Yeah,
no
exactly.
immediately.
That's insane. Like no one is gonna. That's the thing. I don't even know if these Nets were. I mean, I think they were just trying to show KD like, bro, we're not just gonna ship you off for nothing. Like you got a 4-year contract. You signed it last summer, and now you're gonna act
They were never trying to trade him. I don't think they were ever
exactly.
trying to trade him. Like when you ask for stuff like that and go, they're not offering us anything, Katie. I just don't think there's anything there. Maybe you're not as good, when it's like you're asking the Sixers for Embiid. Like I don't know. I don't know your thought here.
But
What I
it's
will say, as far as Mike's point with, sign with Kanye, I think Kanye still thinks he's with Kim Kardashian. So that, that might help the Celtics, that maybe Brown will, he gets traded. He still thinks he's a Celtic and like shows up to the Garden. Like, I don't know.
I think
Great
I
point.
trust that Jalen's smart enough to not just only take Kanye West's advice on where to go.
I think it's
to
more of a
play basketball.
partnership. I don't think it's like,
Exactly.
Kanye, what should I do? Like,
Nate,
let
will
me
the
write a
Celtics
song
fan?
about it.
What's up?
Will the Celtics pay him?
You have
Hey
to.
Jalen, Yeah, I think they will.
I think he's going to do
if,
better this year too. So at that point, I
Yeah.
think you'll be cool with it. I mean, look, as Tatum said in his recent interview, winning solves all, right? If they win a title, Brown's getting whatever he wants.
Agreed. And
exactly. Yeah.
I
if
mean,
they don't win, then maybe they go back into the Durant sweepstakes. I don't know.
if they
We'll
don't
see.
win, there's a
Yeah.
year on Brown's contract, right? I mean,
That too.
but I don't want to go that way. I don't.
Let's just
I hope they wouldn't do
positive
that.
thoughts. Yeah.
I mean,
Positive
look,
thoughts. They're going to be good.
the Celtics are the favorites, right? And I
I would
think
agree with that.
I think it's a fair assessment to say they're the favorites. Just got to put in the work, and don't dig a hole like you did last time. Stay as healthy at the right time, and they should be able to do it.
Yeah. Their depth. I mean, obviously the injury part is very important, but I mean, their depth right now, even if they lose a guy for like a week or two, like you fill in Brogdon, Pritchard, one of these wings that they have, it's a well-oiled, it's a well put together team, I think, and I don't think throwing away all that depth is worth it to get a guy that, who knows, in a year might just be like, oh, I want out of Boston now, he's a loose cannon.
Agree with you there. Well, this is like turned into a Celtics podcast, so
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to get back to what I brought us here for,
Yes, sir.
because I think we made some good points, right? I want to try to attack it from other angles, maybe. See, right? Because we talked it in basketball, and I think basketball, honestly, is the sport where I think comparing is, how am I trying to word this? Like, I think basketball is the toughest to compare different eras because I think they change so rapidly, right? Like LeBron's early years, if you scored 100 points, you're a powerhouse on offense. Now 120 is like the norm. I mean, the Hornets game plan is we got to score more than 140 if we want to win. That's like kind of their game plan.
We ain't playing defense.
But I think, baseball and football are kind of those sports. I'm not going to talk about hockey or soccer because I just don't. That's not my expertise. And I don't think it's yours either. But baseball and football, I think, mainly baseball, is the most like, that's the sport. Not too much is changing. In football, you can talk about, there was definitely a dividing line of when we started to throw more versus we started to run more, right? That's definitely there. Baseball, you had different stuff like the steroid era, for instance, and now you're in like the analytics era, which is completely different. But definitely early on, it's kind of tough, I guess, to defend some of the older guys, maybe just because I'm thinking, baseball, I guess, working out in fitness and athleticism hasn't necessarily been so vital to the game that you can compare them a lot more than like basketball and football, where it's like there's complete, athleticism is key. Athleticism is really what trumps a lot of things. And obviously you need skill, but there's guys, in basketball and football that like they are there because they are just faster than everyone, or they're there because they're stronger than everyone, right? Baseball, there isn't exactly a lot of that. So I think that's an era that might be interesting for this debate, or a sport that's interesting for this.
Yeah, definitely. I think baseball, especially, like you look at some of the records that have happened over the years. Like the last guy to hit 400, Ted Williams, is like what, 1940 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously besides Bonds, who obviously he was on the steroids, but he has the home run record. But a lot of these records, like the 56 game hitting streak, I think that shows that, like you said, it's not a lot has changed in base, or things have changed obviously, but the basic skills and the basic fundamentals that go into baseball haven't really changed that much. So I think it's definitely easier to compare guys through baseball, because I mean, you just gotta you got to have that vision, and you got to have the hand-eye coordination to be able to make contact. And then for pitchers, it's just basically all the grip and how obviously guys can throw harder now, but I mean, even Nolan Ryan was throwing like over 100 back then. So it's like,
Nolan
I think
Ryan
it's
is
just
so
more to make.
overrated.
Hey, maybe he is, but
Got all those
I
no
saw,
hitters, but
yeah, I saw a thing. He hasn't even won a Cy Young. That's kind of crazy. I didn't even know that.
his ERA is so high every single year.
Yeah,
Like he was just a
mean,
strikeout guy and all that.
yeah,
Mike,
strikeouts and no hitters.
do you have any thoughts? And then I'm going to completely counter what I said.
I think I don't really hear a lot of people like compare baseball as much as people compare, say, like basketball, right?
Yeah,
I would say,
or
like, who's
football.
the
I mean,
GOAT in baseball? Like,
in my
you know what I mean?
opinion, what the MLB is trying to make it, like, what are we talking? Because the MLB wants it to be
What
Trout.
would, right? Well, he's not. But what would you
Thank
say?
you. I think it's Ken Griffey.
Okay, yeah.
That's who I think. And I think he's a guy who did everything he did, was still recognized as one of the greatest players at the time in the steroid era, and he did it completely clean.
Yeah. So I would say you definitely can compare for baseball too, because for me, I don't really see a huge difference in play. Other than the steroids, basically, right? Because there was a lot of suspensions, but other than that, like, there's obviously been adjustments to the game, but I don't really see a lot of changes. Whereas in the NBA, you see like definitive changes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, NBA is a constant change of pace and
Right.
play style and everything like that, right? Like Yao Ming might not get a minute in today's game,
Very
right?
true.
And I don't think anyone's doubting if he's a good center or not, right? It's just, the game isn't tailored to put a 7'6" center out there. Now what I will say is, and this is something that I talked about, I think in one of the baseball podcasts with Bobby, it was that I don't know how these guys hit the baseball nowadays, truthfully, because you have starters throwing 100 miles per hour with 4 other pitches. Jacob deGrom throws a 95-mile-per-hour slider, right? And now he's obviously an exception to the rule, right? He's obviously legendary and all that, but I'm just going to take it from a point of, like, let's say it's Juan Soto, right? He hits third, right? He's, I think, the most pure hitter in baseball. And I know he's not having the best year. I think that's because of a lot of circumstances, like what he was dealing with the Nationals and all that. And it's hard to get up for work when, it's just miserable. He's getting up to work every day for a team that just stinks, right? So I don't blame him too much. And since he's been with San Diego, he's hitting 300 plus, right? But a realistic playoff game for him could be he has to face DeGrom twice. He has to face a Mets reliever that throws like 100 from the left side. And then he has to finish with Edwin Diaz as the closer. Like, that could legitimately be a game that's so important for him. And he has to go up against 2 of the toughest pitchers in baseball that throw 100 plus with secondary stuff. And they all have different looks, right? Obviously, no, I did not watch Hank Aaron play baseball, right? But I don't think he's facing off against that, because that's like the Wilt version, I think, for baseball, is if you look at Hank Aaron's stats, you look and you're like, why is this guy not talked about as the greatest player of all time, right? When you just look at his stats and his longevity and all that. But I think that's like a very strong argument for baseball, is like the guys back then didn't have the pitchers now, right? At the same time, the pitchers now don't have the hitters they're playing now. And you do see this shift in pitching. Now it's very quick. It's get your relievers in because they all throw 100. Like, it's very rare for you to see a dominant reliever who doesn't throw that hard. It's a very quick thing with baseball. And, I played baseball, and I'm not trying to compare me or anything, but the second at bat, seeing the same pitcher is a lot easier than the first at bat. you get a whole game to watch them, and then you get another at bat to see it, and you know what's coming. There's no surprises at that point. So, and that's why stuff like perfect games and no hitters is so rare, right? That's why now you have the combined no hitter, because they're like, who really cares about a no hitter? We want to win the game.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's my argument for why I still don't even think it's fair in baseball, which baseball is the game that has changed the least. They're trying to save the game of baseball, and they're fighting to not change anything, right? That's how stubborn they are. People are like, just put a pitch count so I can actually watch a game and not waste my life doing it. And they're like, no.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's
I think one of the things you mentioned is like some of the pitchers that are going today. I don't know if you guys follow Pitching Ninja on Twitter. He definitely goes viral every once in a while. But
is he the guy who like puts pitches next to each other? The same
yeah,
guy. I saw one from, I think he was the Twins pitcher.
mm-hmm.
Someone has already heard this because I said it previously, but it was two pitches lined up. One is a 102 mile per hour fastball, upper right. The other is a 90 mile per hour curveball, bottom left. And the curve breaks 3/4 of the way to the plate. I don't understand how anyone can hit that. Like, not only is the drop and how late the drop is going, they're both fast pitches. People were throwing 90 mile per hour fastballs probably 10 years ago. And now this guy's throwing it for a curveball that drops like 18 inches.
It's insane. Yeah, some of the spin rates on these guys' pitches, it looks like they're throwing wiffle balls out there. It's insane. And yeah, I think definitely, yeah, like you said, the pitching's definitely gotten to a new level. And I think part of that also is the hitters now, no one cares about average anymore. Like, I think like 3 or 4 guys are hitting over 300 now, when like probably 10, 15 years ago.
I know it's low. I'll look it up now just to update.
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact number, but like probably 10, 15 years ago, there were 30 to 40 guys that were hitting over 300. So it's just, I think just as the game changes, it's like hitting has new emphasis and pitching has new emphasis. You're trying to strike guys out more, just as guys are just trying to hit homers and not focus on just getting base hits anymore, you know.
There are 11 guys.
11, yes.
Still crazy.
Yeah, like I'm sure if you look back 10 years from now, there's probably at least like 25, 30 guys that were hitting over 300, you know.
Oh yeah. And it's funny because if I read the averages over 300, a lot of these guys, you'd be like, I don't know if they're like even a top 50 player in the league.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have the Twins first baseman Rays. He's hitting 324, but
yeah, a lot of people say he's underrated. I can't say I watch much Twins baseball, but
I would agree, considering in 413 at bats he has 35 strikeouts. That's very low. But you also look and it's like 7 homers, 40 ribbies. He's not exactly, 22 doubles. Like his slugging definitely isn't there, but that's a very valuable piece. A guy who gets on a lot and doesn't exactly hurt you. But there's a lot of guys on here that are like very underrated. Like Iglesias is hitting 308. Jeff McNeil's hitting 321. But for anyone questioning NL MVP, it's Goldschmidt. He's hitting 335. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, he's got it. I saw he's close to the Triple Crown. I think I think he's like a couple homers short and like a couple RBIs short of the Triple Crown.
Well, he's definitely not catching Judge with homers.
Well, yeah, but because they only do it for like if you get it just for National League, like they count it. Because I think
they do. Oh, that's right, they do.
Yeah, they just look at the National League numbers for that, which is kind of weird. But I mean,
so he's three homers and 2 RBIs behind.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that. That's a good point.
So he's got a chance.
He has a chance, but that's one of the, like, when Cabrera did the Triple Crown, that was like the league, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if
Yeah.
someone did it just in their division, their conference, I'd be like, dude, I don't care. Like
Yeah,
if Goldschmidt
true.
did, it's like he's 20 homers behind Judge.
Yeah, exactly.
Like how much do I value it?
Yeah. Who knows? Hey, I wanted in MLB The Show, so I'll take
Hey, congratulations to Nate's my player in the show.
hell yeah.
Well, I think that was some good discussion. Mike, do you have any closing thoughts for first time on? What are you thinking?
I thought it was a great discussion. I'm more NBA than MLB, obviously, but
Yep.
I thought we had an interesting debate. I still think the NBA is more of a place where you can compare the two because it's just like more of a more people talk about it. Obviously, there's more of a GOAT debate going on right now with that, so I think that's where a
Right.
lot of people are focused on that.
Yeah, MLB is very team focused, so it's kind of tough to pick out one guy, and like it's two like major different positions of a fielder and a pitcher. One plays every day, the other has more impact whenever they play, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, I think NBA also has the highest percentage of idiots talking about it. Don't care if that offends anyone, just saying it. I don't think that's a
You
hot
hear that,
take.
JJ?
So no, JJ knows his stuff. I just think he's very disrespectful with people who played before him and needs to wise up on that. I love
True.
him. I think we need more former players talking about sports because they're the guys who played it. I think I've played against people who are like D1 bound or are playing D1 or playing in college. And it's just like, you don't understand, right? Like I play against D1 people and like they are going to the NBA. Maybe they play overseas, right? And like the level is just crazy. So I do try to always preface when I talk about this stuff, like they would kick my ass or like I don't stand a chance, right? But
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. NBA is just I've heard some wild stuff, like truly wild.
You just
You
need
know,
one LeBron.
Disrespectful.
I
You need
wish
one LeBron guy.
I wish we recorded some of our conversations in college because Mike and I think every time we hung out would like close to fists. Like we were close to fists, you know. And if we got any of those,
Feel
that's
that?
going viral.
Hey, I defend Kawhi Leonard and Jamar Chase like they're my brothers. All right.
Well, you know, this was your first pod, so I'm hoping in future, you know, maybe you'll rile me up more so I can I can just go off, you know. I try to have the filter, but once you break it, that's tough. It's tough to
Next time we should just have bring what you want to argue about, and we can talk about that for 20
yeah,
minutes.
like a
Well-
freestyle podcast where it's just there's no topic, just someone say something, someone say a hot take, and then try to defend it.
Oh, I have a lot of hot takes. You know that.
All right, we're gonna save that because we're, you know, I've been trying to keep these a little shorter because you know the attention span of everyone is decreasing rapidly. I swear people see an hour and they're like, I don't want to do that. People see like 30 minutes, so they're like, you know, I gotta do laundry. I can listen.
Just nobody's got the attention span anymore, even though every podcast I see is like an hour. Just listen to this one. I mean,
Yeah, listen to this one. Exactly. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Mike, I am gonna give you this in case we don't have you on for football before the season. What is your Seahawks prediction for anyone who cares?
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, ready?
Yep.
We're gonna be a
You
middle
have
of the
the
road
floor.
team this year. We're gonna be a middle of the road team this year. Drew Lock is QB1, and we're gonna surprise some people. All right, we're not worse than the teams like the Falcons and the Jets. Okay, we're in the middle. We're gonna be an average team.
All right, anyone listening, when I go over the NFL, I'm going to go on a 2-minute rant against Mike's thoughts, and I'm going to @ Mike on Instagram. And it's going to be
There
solely
we
for
go.
I'm going to be talking to Mike. So look forward to that when that drops, because I'm
Hit the
gonna
relay
write it
for
down.
that one.
I'm gonna write it down.
Patriots
and
will be
midway
7-10.
Okay, so thank you all for listening. Before I punch a hole in my wall, thank you all for listening. This was fun. Definitely will have Nate and Mike back on. Follow all the socials on this. They'll be in the description. That's it. Tune in next time.